Well, good day, everyone. Good day. How's everybody doing? I guess if you're in the Alberta area or BC, it is afternoon. Good afternoon. And if you're elsewhere, good morning and good evening. Thank you for joining us again here on another episode of Conversations with Dune and Friends. Hopefully, you can hear us loud and clear. Let us know if you can hear us, and because it's always better if you can hear us, right? So today we have a very special guest joining us all the way from BC, British Columbia. Beautiful British Columbia. I have to add the words "beautiful" to every time I say that. So from BC, and we have Nathen Aswell joining us today, and. So let me just give a quick introduction of Nathen, who will be spending an hour and a bit with us here on this lunch hour conversation. And so Nathen Aswell, nathenaswell.com is his website, is a gifted speaker and recording artist based in Vancouver. And he believes that his calling in this life is to encourage people to live big lives, one small step at a time, through his engaging talks and his heart-centered music making and his warm listening. Now, his CDs, Little by Little, and yes, are the celebrations of life, transformation and evolution and the really oneness of humanity, delivered by a very popular music styles. And so Nathen honors his calling by speaking and performing internationally at conferences, concerts, and retreats, as well as churches, really presenting his music and stories and humor with his voice, of course, and a Chapman Stick. Now, a Chapman Stick is a 12-string electronic instrument that is tapped to play, sort of like a piano. And wanting to best serve during this pandemic that we're in, Nathen has been performing weekly online concerts on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific. So that would be, I guess, 6 p.m. Mountain Time here in Alberta. And since March 25th, so right from the very early stages of COVID here in Canada. And Nathen walked the Camino and Santiago last September and October. And he's currently writing a book about his experience with that. So with that introduction, folks, please help me in welcoming our guest today, Mr. Nathen Aswell. Nathen, welcome to the conversation. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing fabulously, June. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you for accepting the invitation to join us. This is going to be a fun hour of, again, music and conversations and insights and life's journey. And you have some very fantastic experiences to share as well. Maybe we start with a bit of an expanded introduction. So Nathen, tell us that beyond the introduction that I've sort of shared with our viewer. Tell us more about Nathen.
Well, I was thinking about this, and the place that I always like to start doing is my music. When I talk about my musical life, or two very important threads in my life, I call them my Saturday night life and my Sunday morning life. So my Sunday morning life is where my musical career began. I was raised Roman Catholic, and my Roman Catholic community and identity were very important to me up until my 20s, when I realized that picture of reality was far too confining. But before all that, it served me very, very well. Nothing but positive memories to share of that whole experience. My very first musical memory is standing with my dad in the choir loft at about 5 years old. He was singing as a member of an all-male choir. And I remember very much being in the middle of the sound that the men were creating, and also feeling in the middle of that community. And I realized sometime in the last 5 or 10 years that that was very indicative of the path my life has taken. The two most important threads of my life have been and continue to be music and community. Mm-hmm. So everything started as I said, everything started in the church. And then the next thing that happened to me when I was about 8 years old, this newly ordained priest showed up at our church, and he had a beautiful tenor voice. Mm-hmm. And he sang most of the service, and I was just completely transfixed by this guy. Became an altar boy the next day, just so I could spend as much time with this man as I possibly could. So he was an enormous influence on me. And then, of course, at 11, I became part of the choir. So I was singing in the choir. I was one of the musicians in the choir. I was leading the choirs, So that's how all that began. Yeah. So that was the Sunday morning piece. Then Saturday night, at about 14, 15, I started playing musically in, bands, cover bands and rock bands and stuff. And I described those two paths as being parallel for the longest time. And then over time, they started to intertwine, which was fun. And so right. People that I played with on Saturday night, I was playing with on Sunday morning and vice versa.
Yeah.
And that culminated in me finally getting around to writing my own music and putting out my 2 CDs. But those threads continue to be very important to me, music and community. And I'm very interested in wanting to inspire people musically.
Mm-hmm.
There are plenty of beautiful love songs in the world, and I don't for a second mean to diminish the contribution of all those fantastic writers, but I just feel called to really use the power of music in a more conscious way, a more mindful way, to remind us of how interconnected we all are.
In other words, you have a message to kind of not only share, but to remind people of an important message to remind people of, and you want to do that through music.
Absolutely. Yeah, and as you said, the tagline on my website is encouraging people to live big lives one small step at a time. We're just not designed to learn in big chunks. When we try to do that, we get overwhelmed. So, the way that we learn is one step at a time. So,
yeah,
that's very much what I'm about. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Now I was struck by your story that you share of how one person can impact the decisions and the trajectory of another person's life. Now, in the case of the person that you listened to on that Sunday, where it changed and made you take action the very next day, and it really changed the course of life, right? So those stories are so common and so powerful to hear again and again.
Yeah, I can think of. Excuse me. Yeah, I've been very blessed to have a number of, well, as I'm sure we all have, but yeah, those people who come along in your life and your life is forever changed as a result. I remember, as you asked me that, I'm thinking about 2 professors that I had in university. One taught me electroacoustic music, and the other one I studied bass with and arranging. And in a nutshell, I could say a lot about those 2 men, but I would say in a nutshell, what I really appreciated about the both of them was they saw me as a whole person. They didn't see me as a student. And I remember being really knocked out by that these men that I had great respect for treated me as an equal.
Yeah.
I will never forget that.
Another good reminder for us, I always tell people, you are better with your life if you can just bring your whole self everywhere. And so the complementary to that is that you're better if you can just treat people as a whole rather than that one compartmentalized thing, whether it's a student or, you're my student or you're my mentee or you're my whatever. Mind or remember to inject the idea that they are the whole person well beyond that particular engagement, right?
Yeah. Let me just, I do want to share just a little bit more about those 2 men because, they're very, very powerful, and one of them very funny. So Don Habib was the name of the gentleman who taught me bass and arranging. And I remember this was in 1980, 81. Anybody who's been in Montreal in February, well, you must go through the same thing where you are, the winter blahs in February. And I walked in and he looked at me and he said, "Wow, what's going on with you? You look terrible." And I said, "Well, I told him about my life, and he said, "Man, rest, go see a movie, spend time with your girlfriend. Like you're working too much, just take care of yourself." And I was just astounded because I thought I was going to get the usual, well, you haven't practiced enough and you got to put more time in. And he went completely the opposite direction. And from that moment on, he and I had more conversations like that, where we were really learning about each other as people, not just as, student teacher.
Mm-hmm.
The other fellow, who is someone I'm still in touch with, I'm very happy to say, is a lovely man by the name of Kevin Austin.
Mm-hmm.
He taught me electroacoustic music, and at some point in my studies with him, we co-created some music together, and I just thought the world of him. And he saw that. He saw that I was kind of putting him on a pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
And one day he said to me, "You know what the word guru means?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "No." He said, "Gu means darkness, and ru means light. So a guru is someone who takes you from the darkness and leads you into the light."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He said, "I want you to think of me as your spiritual guru, someone who leads you from the darkness back into the darkness." And then he laughed this wicked little laugh. So yeah, he's been very, very helpful in many ways. Certainly not the least of which is reminding me to not take myself so seriously.
Yeah.
So
Hey, I have your website
yeah.
on here, and maybe just take us through a quick kind of cursory view of it. And if our viewers was to get onto your website, what would they find there?
Well, most importantly these days, on the main page, which you're looking at right now, is a notice for my concerts and a link to my Facebook page so that people can see that. And right underneath that, as you can see, you can watch replays of the weekly concerts. For those people who haven't been able to see what I've been doing up until that point, just clicking on the word "here" will take you to all of those concerts. There are now 14 online, just added another one yesterday, as well as 2 other concerts that I did connected to a couple of other organizations. So there are 16 in all. And I'm doing between 10 and 12 songs every concert. So it's been a really good undertaking. At this point, I've done probably about 150 songs. So it's been quite a process. Just above where you are now, if you could just go back up a little bit with your cursor. The next thing is, as you mentioned in my introduction, I walked the Camino de Santiago, which, for people who aren't aware, is a 500-mile or 800-kilometer pilgrimage across Spain. Something that's been on the infamous bucket list for a couple of years. And there's a story, of course, how it got off the bucket list. These 2 videos here are me talking about my experience, and specifically walking through a PDF that I put together of all the lessons I learned in walking my Camino. And right underneath these 2 videos is a little PDF, is the PDF itself, for people who want to download that information in case they would like to do that.
Wonderful.
And then underneath that are just highlights of various keynote concerts, I call them, a term that I learned from Janice Stanfield, describing what I do as being a mixture of music and song. This is a video of me. This is one of the videos I sent you, actually, Dune. This is me performing one of my songs at the Positive Music Awards, which happen every year in Florida. And playing with 2 guys that I greatly love and adore. So that was a very fun moment.
Yeah. Well, this might be. Now, what else on the website? Is there anything else on the website you want to point out that might be of particular interest to our viewers?
Well, I always calendar is always a good thing. I'm very good at making sure that I keep my calendar updated with everything that's going on. So, of course, these days there are no live performances, but as you can see, there are plenty of online experiences that I'm doing. Every Wednesday, you'll see my online concerts. And then what's happening more and more, I still am very active in spiritual communities. So I'm often performing at churches, both in Vancouver and elsewhere. And as the pandemic has gone on, churches are figuring out how to have musical guests virtually. So last week, for instance, it was a lot of fun for me to be a part of a fundraising event at a church in Las Vegas. And last Sunday, I was the guest musician at a church in San Francisco. So that was fun.
Cool.
And what else? On the media page are links to audio and video. The video would take you to my YouTube page, where you can see all the YouTube videos I've created. Audio are some audio interviews I've done. On the music page, there you go. On the music page are links to the lyrics and my music store, where people can buy my CDs. And on my blog, I've been putting out a monthly blog since 2008. So all of my newsletters are on that page.
Hmm. Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that. You have a great website, lots of resources, lots of music, lots of inspirational stuff, and sort of personal development stuff, as well as love to see your phone number and email right up in front and center there. You're not hard to find there. That's good.
Well,
So
thanks.
this might be a good time for us to share that first video clip that you referred to there. I'm going to cue it up. Maybe give us a quick introduction while I cue it up for our viewers there.
Sure. I included it, so I'm assuming you're talking about I Say Yes, because that's not the first one I gave you. It's the second one, but that's okay.
No. The first one is fine. The first one, which is called
To Love.
To Love. Do you want to go there?
Sure. Let's do that one. So To Love, basically what I did was I gave you 3 videos of 2 songs. The second and third one are the same song in 2 different situations. To Love was interesting because it's a performance of me on my NS stick. So we'll watch the video and then I'll talk a little bit about that. At one point I was in a songwriting circle with some folks here in Vancouver. And I brought this song in and I said, I think this is a good song, but, do you folks think it's good or should I do something else to it? I thought it didn't feel complete to me. It felt too simple. And the overwhelming response I got from everyone was, it's perfect as it is, don't touch it. So that was a real lesson for me. When I have written in the past, I have tended to be too much in my head. Mm-hmm. And this is very much a song that was written from my heart. So it's I think that's all I need to say about that. And you can just let some of it play so people can hear that and see the instrument.
All right. Well, let me go ahead and do that here and bring it in. And let's see. There we go.
Because love
to love, to love, to love, to
Fantastic. That's wonderful, Nathan. Tell us more about the song, and also tell us more about this very unique instrument. I have never played one of those. I have seen you played it, of course, and tell us more.
Well, I don't know if there's anything else I could say about that song except, well, no, there is one thing. There's a song that I wrote probably about a year before this one called Jump Right In. And it's basically about that place that we all get to of being stuck, where we need to make a decision, and for whatever reason we feel we can't, we're on the fence.
Mm-hmm.
And so the song was an encouragement for people to get off the fence and take action either way.
Mm-hmm.
And after I wrote that song, I thought, okay, what do I want to make my commitment to? And so to love is my answer. It's me saying that I want to be fully committed to loving. So that's what that is about. So here I am. Let me introduce you to my two sticks.
Yeah.
So the one that you saw, well, this is not the same one in the video, but it's a one that I got after the one. The one in the video, I think, was made of walnut, if memory serves me correctly. These are instruments made by a gentleman in Los Angeles whose name is Chapman.
Wow.
And for those of you who want to learn more about these instruments, the website is very simple, stick.com. So somebody was smart and grabbed that domain name pretty early.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the NS stick. NS stands for Ned Steinberger, who is a fantastic maker of instruments on his own. This instrument is designed to be played, as you saw in the video, by tapping the strings. I was just gently, pressing down on the strings with both hands. But this instrument was designed for people like me who have years of experience on guitar and bass, and who may be intimidated by the idea of just tapping. So you can do all conventional kinds of technique on this instrument. You can pluck it, strum it, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So when I created my first CD, I was actually using this instrument, not this one, but the one in the video, mm-hmm. To play bass lines and play chords, etc. And this one is like for the guitar players and bass players in the crowd. This is like a guitar with like a bass with extra strings added on top. So it's
like the dual neck without being a dual neck. Dual neck in one neck.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, it looks enormous, I guess, to people who have never seen one. But when I actually put my hands on it, it doesn't feel big at all. Because generally speaking, when I'm playing this, I'm using the bottom 4 strings for this hand and the top 4 strings for this hand. So I'm never playing across the entire neck.
Oh, I see.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, as I said, it was designed, and it has no headstock at the top, which is also common in Ned Steinberger's designs. So anybody who's seen any Steinberger basses or guitars, you can see his influence on the design.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but this is not the original stick. Emmett started making these in 1999. The original stick.
I noticed the EMG there. If
yes.
Our viewers did not catch, those are EMG pickups.
Yeah, which are really lovely.
Yeah.
Now, this, of course, is a whole other animal. This is the original Chapman Stick.
Uh-huh.
So this is the whole thing.
Wow.
And so it can come in 2 different configurations, one with 10 and one with 12. So this is the one with the 12. Mm-hmm. And as you can see, when you take a good close look at the instrument, what's challenging about this is that the lowest bass string is in the middle of the neck. So actually the bass strings are upside down. Mm-hmm. So it's like playing cello with your left hand and playing guitar with your right.
Wow.
Is the best way I can describe it. And the distance, for the non-musical folks in the audience, the distance between the strings is different between the distance of the strings on the guitar. So to say that more simply, if you've ever seen anybody play a 1 octave scale on a piano with 2 hands, the fingering has to be entirely different when you do that on this. And there's a reason for that, and I understand that now, but that's what has made this a more difficult instrument to play. So I first became aware of this in 1982. There's a gentleman named Tony Levin who is the bass player for Peter Gabriel. And he continues to be a very high-profile bassist and stick player. And probably like about 95% of stick players, Tony was my reason for picking this up. I thought I've got to get one of those. That's just too cool.
There's another example of somebody influencing somebody through their actions.
Very much so, yeah. So it's been. I feel like I've kind of taken the long way around, because I've lost track of how many of these I've had and sold and gotten rid of and bought again, and because it wasn't. I didn't gravitate. I didn't find it anywhere near as easy a process as I did when I was playing guitar and bass. So I played this, switched to the one I just showed you, played on it for about 10 years. And once I really got comfortable on that, I thought, okay, it's time to go back to this and really appreciate what this can do, because each of them, of course, can do different things a little bit better.
Wow.
So in the videos that I sent you, the next 2 videos, you'll see me playing the same song, I Say Yes. In the first video, which is to say the second of the 3, I'll be playing it on NS, and then you'll see me playing this on the third version of it, so people can see and hear the difference in tone and approach.
Wow.
The first one is me playing I Say Yes is, again, a very inspirational song. And then in the third video, I changed the lyrics so that I could use it, because it's a very audience participatory song. I changed the lyrics so that I could use it as the theme song for the CAPS Speakers Conference in Vancouver in 2018.
You bet. I was there every year, and you are probably every year as well, in fact. And I remember you performing there that evening. It was well received, and have the whole clip of that. I will definitely share that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing this unique instrument. And obviously, I've always thought myself, piano is stretching for some people, left and right hand doing different things. This one here is that plus the physicality of how it's organized.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I probably about half a dozen times is the number I keep thinking. Maybe it was more than that. There was a period in my life where I really wanted to be a piano player. I thought, and I just kept hearing that over and over again. It'll just it'll expand your harmonic awareness. And I realized I don't know about you, because you're a guitar player too.
Yep.
I realized in the end that doing this, I didn't like the fact that, well, let me say it in the other way. All the instruments I play, I put my arms around. I'm embracing, I'm holding them close to me. It's a much more intimate kind of a connection than on piano. That, and as you know, the fact that we can bend strings and all that kind of stuff, to me, strings just feel more intimate and more expressive than piano does. And playing the stick has enabled me to do that, to realize that goal of being more expanded harmonically. My songwriting improved dramatically when I started playing stick.
So it's sort of the best of both worlds, but it is another level of difficulty.
Yeah. But it's like anything. It's muscle memory, right? Yeah. It's just a question of routine. And as I like to say, I was just saying to my girlfriend last night, the differences between the instruments. I like to make the analogy between driving automatic and stick shift. You get into a car, and initially it's like, oh, this is so different, and but what happens after a while when you're an experienced driver is you get into any vehicle, and within the first minute, it's like, okay, bucket seats, standard, automatic, those are the mirrors. And then within a minute, you acclimatize and you're off, you're fine. So it's the same with these. I can go back and forth between the both of them. And it's like, oh yeah, okay. And I have enough muscle memory in both that I'm also
from now on, instead of saying to people, it's like riding a bike, I just say it's like playing a Chapman Stick.
There you go.
What?
I don't know if anybody's going to believe you, but anyway.
Yeah. Now I like to show some photos, and you to maybe walk us through the journey
Yes.
of journey of Nathan. Let's
Yes.
say that. I think I have the photo kind of queued up here. I just need to
Hmm.
go ahead and bring it on here. So give me a second to do that. And so here are the photos. Um, Take us on a journey, my friend.
Okay, so I included 4 different musical photos, and this one, I had the great good fortune of just being in this wacky Jewish wedding band for about almost 10 years called the Shore Brothers. So this is a picture of us being featured in a newspaper article in '84, and you can just barely see me in the back there. I'm third person from the left behind my buddy Carlisle, who's sort of leaning back with the microphone in his hand. And the reason why I included this is because this is probably one of the most expansive musical experiences I was ever in. Dino, the fellow who is standing in the far right of the picture, was a fantastic keyboard player and accordionist. And under his tutelage, under his guidance in this band, I learned an incredible amount about many different styles of music. And what's of particular note is that a good chunk of the music that we performed in this band, there was no written music for.
Mm.
So it was me just having to really pay attention, and we I became aware of some hand signals, some simple hand signals, which would kind of help you stay on track.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, very, very wonderful, formative experience in my life.
So it really was a sophisticated and complex version of jamming.
Yeah, and the other thing I'd like to add is the fellow who's right center in the picture, who the two fellows in the middle who look like the Marx Brothers. Yeah, so that's Abraham Gonshore on the left and his brother Aaron Gonshore on the right. Abraham actually used the name, they both used the name Shore, Shore being easier, I guess, for non-Jewish folks than Gonshore. Mm-hmm. And Abraham went by the name Al, so I knew him as Al Shore. I primarily spoke to him that way. Mm-hmm. But what I wanted to say is, when I joined that band, was in my early 20s, wanted to be the next big thing, was very into Sting and all the rest of it, and thought that a lot of the stuff that these two brothers did was very corny. In particular, they had this routine where they would go out into the audience and they would do a sing-along and get various people from the Jewish community to sing, most of whom were, and these were millionaires, people that had grown up in the same neighborhood in Montreal in the 40s. Mm-hmm. And had now gone on to great financial success and were real pillars in the community. And Al would just level the playing field entirely by getting these people to get up and sing. And of course, they were all awful, and he would tease them mercilessly about that. And after about 15 minutes, the room was happy and connected. Everybody was connected thanks to that great ability that Al had to just unite the room through music and humor.
Again, he saw the humanity, and he saw the whole individual beyond the particular role that we are talking about, right?
And what I was going to say is, in the last couple of years, one of my talks was about, I called it everything I know I learned from being in a Jewish wedding band. And principally what I meant were those two things of how much it expanded my ears, but also how indebted I am to Al now, that he really showed me how to engage an audience, mm-hmm. how to unify an audience. I'm forever grateful to him. And I've had the good fortune to tell him that recently, and he was just knocked out mm-hmm. to learn that I had that impact. Wow. He had that impact on me. So, yeah. So this is a very, very special group of guys. We were known as the Puritans. We were a band from 87 till when I left from, well, actually we continued after I moved to Vancouver. I would go back and continue to play with them. But my first, I would say well, no, not my first original band, but probably the one that I enjoyed the most and had the richest experience with. In fact, they were responsible for me moving to Vancouver. What happened was in 1990, we were part of a Canada-wide original music contest. And long story short, out of I don't know how many bands submitted recordings, we ended up being the finalists for Quebec. There were 5 bands chosen across the country, one from the Maritimes, one from Quebec, one from Ontario, one from the Prairies, and one from BC. We were flown out to BC for the finals. We didn't win. The band from Ontario won. But it was very interesting to me. This is 1990, as I said, and there was absolutely no mention of Montreal. It's like Montreal didn't exist. It was all Toronto, Vancouver. And I remember that planting a seed in me and thinking, you know, what's the point of being a part of something that nobody outside of Quebec is ever going to hear about? So it took me almost a year. I woke up about a year later thinking, yeah, maybe Vancouver's where I want to be. I knew I didn't want to go old in Montreal. I was tired of the political nonsense in Montreal around language. And so, yeah, in 92, I came out with my, I was married at the time to a woman I had just married in Montreal. We came out in the summer of 92. I decided right then and there that I wanted to come back to live here. So I moved here on Thanksgiving Day of 92. And I've been here ever since. But all that to say, many experiences with these guys. We developed quite a reputation in Montreal. We ended up being the house band for one of the house bands for the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival for many years, and that went on well after I moved out here. So that was a reason for me to go back to Montreal. And the happy final thing to share about that is the fellow at the bottom. His name is Gary White. He was the drummer in the band. He's putting together his first CD, and he just wrote a song in which he asked all of us shown in the picture to be a part of the recording. And he just released a video of us playing along to the tracks that we recorded virtually. So Bruce, the fellow on top, is now living in Australia. Actually, the third guy is, we replaced him with a fellow named Stan who played keyboards. Stan lives in Aurora, Ontario. I'm out here in Vancouver, and Gary is still in Montreal. So it was just wonderful to have that latest chapter added to our story. So wonderful guys.
You must speak some French, perhaps?
I do. My comprehension is better than my dialogue, and that's just because I don't practice enough. I tell people that the big mistake I made was I never had a French girlfriend. That would have solved everything. But
yeah, you know. There's a theme. Many guests have sort of made comments or tell stories that remind me how powerful girls and women are on the overall impact on us.
Well, wait till I tell you. Wait till you see where I'm going to end up in this call, my friend. I have some very good things to say on that score.
Yeah.
So this is a picture of an a cappella quartet that I joined in 1996. I was with them for about 10 years, the Euphorics. And the gift of one of the many gifts of playing with the Euphorics was before I joined the Euphorics, you know, I was a musician, always on stage playing with an instrument. I'd never been in a group where I was just singing. And so I noticed the very first time that we rehearsed, like I became aware of I will consciously use the word barrier, the layers of barrier that I put between myself and an audience when I perform. I have my instrument on, I have a music stand, I have a mic stand. And what happened with the Euphorics was it was only the mic stand. And even then, sometimes we would perform concerts with no PA whatsoever. We would play house concerts where I would be about 4 or 5 feet standing in front of the first row of people. And at first it was very disorienting because I realized how much I had unconsciously become accustomed to and felt safe with those barriers. So the great gift of the Euphorics was freeing me from all those things. And to this day, my favorite concerts now are house concerts. For those of your listeners who aren't aware of house concerts are literally concerts in someone's living room. And I have done many of them with no PA, just me having enough amplification so my stick can be heard and not even using a microphone. This particular picture I'm fond of because with the Euphorics, I traveled over many areas in the States and in Canada. And notably, as is shown in this image, we went to Seoul, Korea about 5 or 6 times. And so this is from a tour that we did in 2003. And we just had an absolute ball over there. We were treated very, very kindly. And just getting a chance to enjoy Korean culture was a real treat. So
awesome.
Definitely a highlight in my life.
Thanks for sharing that transition. And I just want to highlight, I mean, when you think about, like, for example, speakers, like you and I do a lot of speaking professionally in front of different audiences. And when we do just purely speaking,
Mm-hmm.
at the most we have is a microphone, and oftentimes it'll be a headset that's wired here.
Yeah.
So it really is just a voice and whatever journey we take them on through our really conversation and stories and whatever have you. And so
Mm-hmm.
that would be a similar kind of experience, isn't it? When you're kind of speaking. In that case,
Mm-hmm.
you don't even have the comfort of music to even kind of support you. It's just words, right?
Yeah. And this is sort of going to contradict what you just said and what I was just saying about the euphorics, but I have never just spoken. I always have my instrument with me. I would feel incomplete, and I don't say that in a way of me hiding behind my instrument, but for me,
Mhm.
music will always be the center of my life. So the idea of speaking without an instrument just would feel completely foreign to me.
You bet. You bet.
So
Absolutely. I fully understand. So, moving on from this photo here, you're gonna. This is the.
yeah. So I'm smiling because I just have such warm feelings for these guys. The Hitmen was a cover band. We never wrote any original material, but I bring them up for a couple of reasons. This picture is actually, there was another one that I had hoped to find, but I couldn't get my hands on. The Hitmen was actually just a quartet. So that being the second fellow from the left, Sean Susi, is the drummer. The fellow wearing the shades and looking very mysterious and dangerous is Lee Warden. He's now in Nashville. Myself to his left, or anyway, to the left of the picture, and Tom Arnson sitting in front looking like the Godfather there. So the two other fellows are Bill Abbott on the extreme left. He's a sax player, and Ross Gregory is the trumpet player on the other side. So those two guys would come and augment our lineup sometime. The reason why I included this picture is to this day, Sean and Lee and Tom are my closest friends. I'm very sad that Lee's no longer in Vancouver, but it was that combination of friendship, our connection both on and off stage that made for a fantastic experience on stage. And again, like the Puritans, we played an incredibly wide variety of concerts. We have done performances for weddings, conferences. We have also done more specific repertoires. We did an entire Beach Boys tribute. We did a Blues Brothers tribute. So years and years of fun experiences. And as I said, I'm still close with all those guys. So
Yeah.
I
In
had
other
to make mention of them.
As much as you spend a lot of time on the Chapman Stick these days, in the format that you perform, you
Mm-hmm.
have a long history of rock and blues and
Yes.
jazz and you name it, big band,
Yes.
small band,
Yeah.
intimate kind of settings and
Yeah.
big settings. So quite a diverse career that way.
Yeah. And
But
that's primarily as a bass player, actually. So in this particular lineup, I was the bass player.
right. So you were the groove for
Yep.
music.
Yeah, Sean and I would lay down some pretty good grooves, that's for sure.
Yeah, wonderful. Tell us about this.
Well, okay, so it's time now for me to, now that you've shown that, literally I had a life-changing experience last year. So this was me walking the Camino de Santiago, as I said, this long pilgrimage across Spain. I first became aware of it through this movie. I think most people in North America are aware of the Camino because of this movie that Martin Sheen starred in. Very briefly, it's the story. Martin Sheen's actual son, Emilio Estevez, is the director of the movie and plays the role in the movie of someone who starts out on the pilgrimage and actually dies tragically right at the beginning of the journey because there's at the very beginning of the Camino, you have to cross over you have to cross the Pyrenees Mountains into Spain. And if the weather is not ideal, visibility is quite poor. So in the movie, Emilio's character falls to his death. So Martin Sheen's character comes to get his son's ashes and to then walk the Camino in his son's memory and spread his ashes along the way of the Camino. And of course, in the process, has his own spiritual journey. So I watched that movie, had quite an impact on me, and I thought, yeah, I would love to have that experience. And like most people, I thought, I just shelved it, put it in the one-day pile. And then last year, next slide, please.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, I went to go visit my mom. My mom lives in Kemptville, Ontario, about 45 minutes outside of Ottawa. And she loves to watch movies. And we watched this movie. I'd seen it years before in the theaters. But I was I'm very affected by movies, as I'm sure a lot of us are. And after watching this movie again, for those people who haven't seen it, Tom Hanks plays a FedEx executive who gets marooned on an island for 4 years, gets completely disconnected from his life, and through his own creativity and ingenuity manages to survive and get out of there finally and get back to his old life, where everyone, of course, is completely changed and moved on, including his wife or his fiance. I think they get engaged just before he leaves. This whole moment happened.
Mm-hmm.
Comes back to find that she's remarried, has a child with another man, and so all this to say, it took me to a very quiet place, and I thought, the only time we have is now. We don't know what's going to happen around the next corner. So if there's something that we really need to do or something we need to live, now is the time we need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought about the Camino, and I thought, well, what am I waiting for? Now's the time for me to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So last September, I turned 60, amazingly. I don't feel 60.
You look 40, my friend. You look 40.
I feel great. So I said, yeah, that will be my birthday present to myself. I will walk the Camino. So I made the decision to walk the Camino, and I was scared. I thought, how am I going to do this? I don't have the resources to do this. Just all those voices came up. But there was this certainty. I had made the commitment, and I was going to follow through on it. And so the pictures that follow, most of the pictures that follow, are about that experience and just insights that I had along the way. So my first question that I got a lot from a lot of people is, you're not going to walk the Camino without an instrument, are you? And I thought, well, I'm not going to walk it with a stick. That's way too heavy. So this beautiful little thing came to my awareness. It's called a guitar lele. It's a combination guitar ukulele. So it's the same size as a ukulele, but it has 6 strings,
Wow.
like a guitar instead of 4.
That's what I need. That's what I need. So I have to learn how to play the ukulele.
Absolutely, and it's a real joy to play. So that was my instrument. I took that with me, and I performed, I think, for about a dozen times along the Camino, like sing-alongs in various hostels, and probably one of the sweetest moments of my entire Camino experience was I performed for about an hour in a church. I had wanted to sing in a church at some point, and I found this amazing church with beautiful reverb in it, and I just sat in it and sang for about an hour. And as I was singing, a number of people just quietly came in and sat behind me because they just wanted to hear what I was doing.
Yeah.
So for the next, whatever it was, couple of days, week, I was running into people on the trail who said, yeah, we heard you. We were just knocked up by what you did, and thank you. So I was I wanted to use, as I always do, I wanted to use music as a way to connect and share. And it was a wonderful tool to do exactly that.
Yeah, well, fantastic.
Yeah. So this is just the very first place that I stayed. So the route that I took was the French Camino, the Camino Français, which begins just inside of France in a small town called Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, which is Saint John at the foot of the bridge. Mm-hmm. And then, as I said, on that first day, you then cross over into across the Pyrenees and into Spain. So, yeah, this is just where the journey began. And what I was particularly happy about, I had all these fears, am I going to have enough to eat? And what am I going to do about language? And will I have enough money? And just one thing after another. Mm-hmm. And so my concern with this place was I had exchanged some email with this woman saying, my train is only going to get in at 10. I hope that you're still willing to meet me. And a few times I got this message, well, the desk closes at 9. And I thought, okay, so how is this going to work? So I get off the train at about 10, and I'm thinking it wasn't far from the train station to this location. And I'm thinking, okay, I have my map book. I know where I'm going. And I get off the train, and I hear this woman calling my name with a French accent. And it was the woman who ran this place. She came to the train station to pick me up.
Wow.
And that, for me, just set the tone for the whole trip. There's an expression on the Camino, which is the Camino provides. Mm-hmm. And right from that moment, Dune, all the way through, I have lovely moments of that, of just, whenever I needed, whatever it was I was looking for, like bang, someone or something would happen that would give me exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah. In other words, you were stronger together.
very much so.
stronger together.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
So the next dozen or so, you could flip through these quickly. Gee, will I get lost on the Camino? I just included about 12 different variations on this theme. This is kind of your typical Camino sign.
Yeah.
The shell on the left is the Camino shell sign, and then the arrow making sure that you're going in the right direction. But as you'll see, as you scroll through all these, there are many, many variations of signs that keep you on the way. Some on the ground, arrows painted on rocks.
Kind of breadcrumbs or.
Oh yeah. Here's a whole pile of stones put into the shape of an arrow.
So if you go too long without seeing a sign, you want to kind of head a
exactly. And there were a couple of times. So there were times where what I needed to do was just sort of stop, take a minute, because inevitably someone else would appear.
Mm-hmm.
I think there were about 4 or 5 times where I did get lost for about 15 minutes. And again, someone would appear, like a driver would be going by or someone walking his dog. So, no, you got to go that way. Because, anyway, go on.
Underscore, you were actually walking by yourself. Is that
yes, sir. Yep. I ended up meeting people along the way, of course. But yeah, I walked the entire thing.
Wow. See, I didn't know that. Is that the typical thing? Is that how it's structured?
Some people go with groups. Some people go on their own. Some people go as part of tours. There's lots of different ways to do it. Some people cycle it.
Oh.
Some people will walk some of it and decide to bus or taxi past the points that they don't want to do.
Do you know the distance? What's the cumulative distance?
Yeah, the cumulative distance is it's about 775 kilometers.
Wow.
And then, so that takes you to Santiago de Compostela, which is a town on the western side of Spain, where it's believed that the bones of St. James the Apostle are. So Santiago is Spanish for St. James.
I see.
And so there are actually several different Camino routes, all of which end at that location.
Uh-huh.
And I knew that I didn't want to end there. I knew that I wanted to go a little bit further and finish on the coast of Spain, as you'll see. And that is exactly what I did, because one of the big reasons why I'm in Vancouver is I love the ocean. I wanted to be close to the ocean. So I walked to the ocean on the west coast of Spain.
Well, that's fantastic. So by yourself, so then any kind of food, like you are self-sufficient for the...
Yeah.
How long of a journey? You spoke about the distance. But how many days are we talking about?
There's a fellow named John Brierley who walked the Camino about 25 years ago for the first time. It changed his life. He was a businessman, an Irish businessman. Mm-hmm. And he made a decision very shortly after walking the Camino that it would be something that would be a very important thing for him to do many times. So he has written the definitive guidebook, which he updates every year.
Wow.
And there are about a dozen different Camino routes now. So anyway, I mentioned John because in his book, he breaks the route that I did down into 33 days. Mm-hmm. So I gave myself more than that because I wanted to, as I said, I wanted to continue on to the coast. I ended up doing the 33 days in the 33 days and then walked a few more days to the coast and then, a little bit of travel time getting there and back. So I was gone. My journey was 40 days in total.
40 days. Well, there's some references to 40 days.
Yeah. Well, and he said, John, the interesting thing about John's guidebook is it's very, on every page, he gives you the physical information. Uh-huh. And then he talks in a very spiritual way, so what are you letting go of at this point on the trip? And, mm-hmm. So he mentions the significance of 33 for him is, 1 year for every year of the life of Christ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and I want to stress that while I was raised Roman Catholic, it's not an identity that I have anymore. Mm-hmm. So the journey for me was very much a spiritual one, but not a Catholic one. Right. So there was no desire in me to get to Santiago to be in the church. I knew that just doing that walking would take me to a very quiet inner place, which is exactly what happened.
In other words, when what we need and want is in alignment with other things, there's nothing wrong with joining the journey and not be, excluding it just because it has some connection to something that may not resonate with us more or anything like that. Yeah. Happy to hear that. Now, so I'm just going to just bring up the next photo here and next fuse.
Yeah, like I said, I think there's probably, so, here's a shell in the sidewalk.
Cool.
Just lots of variations on this, so you just, all you have to do is keep your eyes open and you'd see something,
Yeah. Kind of giving you positive reinforcement along the way.
Yep. So here's another one.
That's neat. So you have to keep your eyes open. You can't.
Yeah, but it's there are the odd time where things get a little vague, but most of the time,
Okay.
a million variations on this theme.
Yeah, wonderful. Oh wow.
This is a big roundabout in the middle of this is me leaving at about 6 o'clock in the morning, and can't miss that one.
Yeah. So let me ask you: did you gain any weight? Did you lose any weight? What was
it's so funny you should say that. I didn't lose an ounce, which amazed me, and I think that's because when I ate on the Camino, I just ate pretty heartily, probably more than I do, and people will tell you that more than I usually do. But I guess because I was constantly moving, I didn't gain an ounce. But yeah, I certainly thought I was losing. I thought I was getting thinner around the middle and stuff. But yeah, got home and sure enough, I would imagine that's because an awful lot of chocolate bars.
Yeah.
And some things that I don't normally do. I had a lot more sugar, and I did have alcohol every day. I was always having a glass or two of wine every day.
You were processing with all the activities that the system was processing. You were working the system quite probably harder than normal, I would imagine, walking all that, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. This one makes me laugh, for like them writing the word Camino on top of the arrow. I just thought, wow, let's really make sure people know where they're going. So
just in case people were going in. Yeah. So what's the significance of that symbol there?
The best simple answer I can give you is that there's all kinds of legend and myth around St. James. And if you go to the beach where I went to, very close to, it's about another 90 kilometers west of Santiago, a town called Finisterre, which is Spanish for end of the world. Because they thought before North America was discovered, they did think that Finisterre was the end of the world. So it actually has great significance in the pre-Christian times, even in Celtic times and stuff. A lot of rituals and stuff happened in Finisterre. So all that to say, if you go to the beach in Finisterre, there are scallop shells scattered all over the beach. So it's just it's a symbol of a shell that you can find very easily over in that part of the world. And then I can't remember how it ties into St. James in particular, but there is a story about that. So here's another. This is a shell just actually in the pavement. Well, not a real shell. I think it's probably. But anyway, just one more sign. And this is what the sign looks like at 6 o'clock in the morning before the sun has come up. Reflective sign.
It slapped you in the head. It's like neon signs almost.
Yeah.
This
was probably my favorite one. Look at that. That took some time.
Yeah.
To create that arrow on the wall of the house.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
And so these are the markers that you see all the way along. I don't know if you can actually see there, but it says to Finisterre is what it says there.
Yeah.
And so this is the route after I've left Santiago, and I'm continuing on to the coast. But generally speaking, when you see these little markers in that little rectangle where it says to Finisterre, it normally says how many kilometers are left. So you have little indications all the way along of how far you've gone and how far is left to go.
So even sort of ancient history kind of what's the words traditions have things in kilometers, not miles. Just kidding.
Well, yeah, this is Europe, right? So but the interesting thing about the Camino is it was incredibly popular in the Middle Ages. In fact, you could interestingly, I found this very interesting. People were given the choice, if they were prisoners, they were given the choice between doing time in jail or walking the Camino. So back in the time when, the church had a great influence on how people thought,
Mm-hmm.
So no, you were walking to kind of be forgiven for your sins and all that kind of stuff. And also at that time, it was much more grueling an experience than it is now.
Right. Right. In other words,
So
you're more likely to die.
highly likely, or certainly a greater percentage of that happening than now. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this next picture, I just had to share because this is an example of definitely one of the highlights of the Camino is the people that you meet along the way. So going around the table from left to right is Brett from Australia, Beth from New Zealand, Laureano at the end of the table, originally from Spain, now living in London. You want to hear something interesting? Listen to a Spanish guy speak British English. Shay, who's just around the corner there, she's from Israel. And I can't quite remember the name of this fellow from Tokyo, fantastic singer. So this was us just having dinner in Leon, about halfway along, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
yeah. Oh,
and this is from. This was a highlight. One of the they're called albergues, the Spanish word for hostel. Great varieties in the kinds of foods and services, and this was a particularly lovely place. The best food I encountered on the entire trip, and it was at an albergue on a very, very remote part of the Camino. And dinner was absolutely fantastic. And the next morning, one of the staff members got up and was making us churros. These are handmade churros. I don't know if any of you have had those, but they're basically made of what is it? You fry them. So I suppose it's sort of like donuts without any of the sugar or any of that kind of thing. But they were handed to us. He made them and then put them on the table, so they were still hot when this picture was taken. Just a real treat to have that quality of food.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, and most of the time, this was my favorite place. This is a grocery store chain that's all the way across Spain. So I would just, I was living on bread and cheese and salami and whatever.
DIQ, is it? Is it?
It's DIO. DIO.
DIO. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, well fed. So this guy won my heart. I actually shed a few tears before this photo because I don't know what happened. I guess I hadn't had breakfast or whatever, and I was just feeling very low energy. And I passed this sign, and I regret that I didn't take a picture of the sign. The sign said something like, I don't know. As I think of it now, something along the lines of an emotional stop or something beyond just stopping to get food. And this guy had such a lovely energy, and his booth was just the perfect location. I stopped, I had a good rest, I got some food. There's a bathroom just behind him there. And for me, he's indicative of the spirit of the Camino. So all of this is by donation. He's completely there, giving his time and energy, and not expecting any payment for that. And his smile and his heart were open and genuine. And it was just, I experienced people like that all the way along. And as I said, at exactly the right time, so it was very nurturing for me to stop there for a couple of reasons. So this is a great story. This is a beautiful home that's in a town called, I never pronounce it quite correctly, Othebriero, I think it's called. But basically, it's at the end of a long hike up to 3 different towns. And what happened when I got here was I couldn't find the albergue I was looking for. And I heard 2 women speaking English, and I passed them and I said, do you happen to know where the albergue is? And one of the women said to me, well, actually, we've rented 2 rooms, one in this place and one in the place right beside it. And she said, I don't need this room. Please have it. And I said, well, please let me give you something for that. And she said, no, please take it as my guest. And so I got to stay in this beautiful home after staying. It was the first night on my Camino where I got a chance to be in a room by myself. And it's not that you acclimatize that. You get used to being in these hostels with lots of other people. But it was just a real gift to be in this place, have some time by myself. I soaked in the bathtub for a long time, had some great food that night. And as you'll see in the next picture, take a look at the view right across the street. That's the view I had.
Mm-hmm.
So just a spectacular way to end that night. And again, the Camino provides. I had no idea where that hostel was, never found it. Woke up the next day and continued on my way, but I just was gifted with this incredible place to stay by this woman that I had never met.
Yeah. It's an important reminder that when we're outside of our normal routines and normal scenery, new emotions or new levels of emotions can really overcome and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's definitely a once in a lifetime experience. I know some people do plan to come back the second time, but that's a real commitment, because that's takes a lot of kind of training beforehand to make sure that you are somewhat ready for it as well, right?
Well, I'm glad you said that. Two things to say about that, Dune. I'm going back. I'm very much going back. I intend to do all of the Camino routes. I'm hooked. And second, I actually didn't do I did no training before I left.
Wow.
And
well, you were in awesome shape before, my friend.
Well,
I
was in good shape, and none of us walk 6 hours a day. So I ended up getting, I made the two big mistakes. One was, I didn't train beforehand, and I know now specifically what to do now before I go next time. And second, I had way too much weight with me.
Okay.
So, which is a mistake that many people make. So that's one of the reasons why I want to go back. They say that the second trip, the travel guide, and he says the second trip is the trip that you wanted to make the first time. So I'm looking forward to going back and doing the route again and doing it properly, having just the right amount of weight. And people think that the Camino, is kind of taking you through Siberia. It's not. You're walking through, I think it's 5 major towns, many smaller ones, of course, but anything that you may need, it's all along the way. So you don't need to travel. People pack, the great expression I heard is people pack their fears. Well, I might need this and I might need that. Well, you can actually get pretty much everything you need all the way along. So you can travel really nice.
In other words, it's sort of a throwback to how life used to be. If you were to go from town to town, that's what you would do, right? The towns are not that far apart, and they do have community support, but you have to be self-sufficient between the towns, if you will, right? Cool. Thanks for sharing that. Let's go to the next photo here.
So this is a great picture. So I in the past images, I was sharing things about accommodation and about food and stuff. So now there are some pictures of some of the incredible souls I met along the way. So this is a Korean man who is an acupuncturist, and he had a bag on, which I think he has on in this picture, and in several different languages on the bag, he just said, I'm here to serve. So if you would like to have a treatment, just come and talk to me. So with Google Translate, I told them, what I wanted to do some work on. So I'm holding up my hands. You probably can't see them, but in my hands are probably about 60 small acupuncture needles, very small, like maybe half an inch long, each of them.
Oh, wow. I see some of them,
Yeah, so he's got them, he's put them in all my hands, and I had to keep them in my hands for, I don't know, can't remember what he said, an hour or two.
Wow.
Anyway, just a delightful, warm-hearted man, and I remember the days before and days after that running into people and saying, hey, did you see the Korean guy? Because, man, he'll give you a free treatment. And so we're all sharing stories about having seen him and worked with him.
Yeah. Well, that's...
Now, this guy, Father Miguel, he's the priest standing in the middle of this photo. I took this picture for 2 reasons. One, being raised Catholic, certainly one of the things that happened to me as time went on in my Catholic experiences, and I don't for a minute think that this is confined to people in the Catholic tradition. I'm sure this is true of any religious tradition. People who are leaders in that community who quote unquote just phone it in. They're not, their heart isn't in it anymore. And Father Miguel was a very worthy exception to that rule. This is a man who continues to walk the talk. So very open-hearted guy, very animated. And he uses music as a way to combine people. So in this picture are 5 different nationalities. And what he did with us after the service was over was even longer than the service itself. He got us all singing. He got each of the 5 languages, countries represented to sing a song representative of our country. He handed out, you can see us all holding music there. He's got music sheets for us to sing with. And, he blessed me after that. And I remember very clearly when it's not something I've done for a long time, but I remember when he blessed me, I think I felt kind of like a little bit of electricity running through me when he put his hands on my head. Because just a sweet, sweet guy. And again, the town that he's in was one main street, maybe like half a kilometer long, and then boom, you're out into the open fields again.
Yeah. So again, that whole idea of when you engage people in their, total whole self, the whole humanity of it, not just the one compartmentalized portion of it, you have a deeper impact on the experience.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well said. Yep.
Thanks for sharing that again, Nathan.
So that's me getting my blessing from Father Miguel.
Yeah. Wow.
So these guys, I always get a little emotional when I look at this picture. So these, I made some wonderful friends on the Camino, and these guys were the guys that I felt closest to, and I'm still in touch with them, I'm happy to say. And for me, they're indicative of 3. I firmly believe that everyone in our experience is a mirror of us. And from left to right, the gentlemen shown are Jorg, that's G-O-R-G, Traugott in the middle, T-R-A-U-G-O-T-T, and Stefan at the end. So what I like about Jorg is, for me, he embodied the warrior, just a very open-hearted man. He walked with a walking stick, and I ended up getting one. It kind of, what I like to jokingly say is, when I grow up, I want to be just like Jorg, is what I said. I just really loved his heart, and he has a tattoo on his left shoulder, and as you'll see in a couple of pictures, I have been thinking about getting a tattoo for several years, and after I met Jorg, I got the tattoo both because I wanted to commemorate the Camino and also because I wanted to feel a little closer to him. So for me, Jorg is the embodiment of the warrior, the open-hearted warrior. Traugott is German for trust in God. And Traugott, I met on the very first night, and Traugott was my spiritual buddy. So he's a minister, and we would have great conversations about our belief. And just a wonderful, warm-hearted guy. He too is writing a book on the Camino, and about 3 weeks ago, he sent me all of the passages in the book about me, which brought tears to my eyes. He wanted to make sure that he had remembered things correctly. So that was lovely. And Stefan, for me, is the embodiment of generosity. We're actually, in this picture, we are standing in a beautiful apartment that his daughter found for him, kind of an Airbnb thing. And there were they stayed in a number of these, and I stayed in 2 or 3 of them with these guys. And again, it was just so lovely to be in a home together. We had a wonderful dinner, and I had a long soak in the bathtub, and But just these guys were a major, major part of my community.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, when we have an open heart, we tend to find and attract open hearts, right?
Absolutely. Yep. So here I am. Jorg got his tattoo in can't quite remember the pronunciation of the town, but about 2/3 of the way through the Camino, and I got mine on the very last day. So here we are side by side. I've just got mine. So when you get a tattoo, you need to keep it covered in saran wrap because it, for safety and hygiene and all that stuff.
So this is a full-blown real tattoo, done
Yes,
properly, all of that.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So this is the church I mentioned earlier, the church where I sang. This is it. It's at the church that I was in is actually the one to the left. You can.
Yeah. Oh, you. I think you might be freezing in terms of the technology there. So if you can't hear me anymore, maybe come back, Nathan.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, you were just frozen for about 6 seconds there.
Oh, okay. So what I was going to say is the church that I sang in is the one you put your cursor on the building to the left. That's the albergue.
Mm-hmm.
So just the one between that and the church we're looking at straight in the background, that one, that's where I sang.
This one here. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. In between the two. Wow.
Yeah.
In the bridge, or what that we might call a breezeway, or no?
Well, it's actually, you can't tell, but it is actually another chapel.
All right.
So they're both chapels, and I sang in the both of them, but the one I prefer is the one where you have your cursor.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And this for me embodies what I enjoyed the most about the Camino is just the simplicity and the freedom to just walk in settings like this every single day. Dude, if I had $1 for every moment on the Camino that I just laughed out loud with joy, at just the freedom, every morning my life was, I would put my pack on and go out into a day with scenes like this. And knowing that everything would be taken care of. I'd find the food, I'd find a bed, I'd find friendship, and I'd have great long moments of silence too. So yeah, that picture just really typifies all of that for me.
Yeah. So life simplified, and life's boiled down to its basic elements.
Yeah, very much so. So this is the end of the road for most people. This is the cathedral in Santiago de Compostela. And as you can see by the cranes there, they're doing renovation work to it. And as is shown in the movie The Way, this is usually a big moment for people, especially people who are doing the pilgrimage from a Catholic viewpoint, because there are a number of things inside the church. There's a kind of a life-size statue of St. James, which a lot of people like to go in and embrace. There are the bones of St. James that you can see down in on the lower level, I think. And there's most notably, I think, and again shown in the movie The Way, I can't remember the Spanish word for it, but have you ever seen incense burners that they use in Catholic churches?
Yeah, you bet.
They're usually, probably.
I'm born and raised Catholic, so
there you go. Okay, so I'm preaching to the choir. So for those who don't, incense burners tend to be about this size. Well, at this church, they have one that is, it looks like a barrel. And it takes 12 men to hoist. And what they do is they swing it the entire nave of the church. So the church is filled with this incense. It's just a very powerful sight. And I was very much looking forward to having that experience when I got here. And unfortunately, the church was closed for renovations. So I didn't even go into the church. I didn't even see it at all. So I am hoping on a future visit that I'll have that experience. But I laughed when I was learning about the Camino. There was besides, as you know, as a fellow Catholic, the symbolism of the incense is, kind of lifting our prayers up to God. The incense wafting up to God, is the kind of the symbolism of it. Well, it turns out that in the Middle Ages, it also had a very practical purpose, and that was, by the time pilgrims got to Santiago, they stank. So the incense was to get rid of the smell of all the people in the church.
Yeah.
So anyway, so as I said, that was I made a couple. As I said before, I made a couple of mistakes on the Camino. The other mistake I made was I didn't have a phone with a SIM card. So it would have been very handy for those few times where I did get lost. And secondly, it would have been very handy to stay in better contact with people. So I got here and was really hoping to connect with everyone that I had met along the way, and there was no way for me to be in touch. So sadly, there are people that I never saw again, which I'm very, very sad about.
Yeah.
Anyway, so and as I said, I couldn't finish here. I had to go onto the coast. So.
In other words, a strategic use of some technology can make it better. You don't want to all of a sudden be dependent on it every minute of the journey. But yeah.
So this is the end. So there are two towns on the coast. One is called Finisterre, as I mentioned before. This one is Mushia, and Mushia is the much smaller of the two, much quieter of the two, just literally a very quiet fishing village on the Atlantic. And this is a church looking out onto the ocean. So I really felt myself land, feel completion when I got to this point. I was like, yeah, okay. And then, for me, it was really, this is behind the church. This is me right out by the water thinking, yeah, I'm home now. I've completed my journey.
Yeah. I was born and raised near the ocean. I literally was, probably an hour and a bit from the ocean or something like that. And, in Vietnam back in those days, short distances like that seemed really long back some years ago in the, again, war-torn country and whatnot. When I look at the map now, I just say, wow, we were so close to the ocean, and how rare it was that I went to the ocean.
Yeah.
Because the whole country is, bordering the ocean, right? And
right.
Vietnam is actually a very thin, narrow kind of, not very wide, but it's very tall, right? Okay. So yeah, it's funny because for somebody who lives so close to the ocean, I have very few ocean experiences.
So this is an important moment in the trip. This is the Cruz de Ferro, or the Iron Cross. And as you can see there's a mound of things. What happens is people are invited before they walk the Camino to bring a stone or a pebble or something from home, symbolizing something that they would like to release, something that they would like to let go of. So I definitely did bring a rock out from one of the beaches here in BC with me. And what I decided, and I knew before I left, what I wanted to get rid of are all of my feelings of lack, all of my feelings of not enoughness. So that's what I left on this pile. And after I did that, for about the next hour, I had about 2 or 3 strong waves of emotion that came up in me. After this, I was walking downhill the rest of the day, and very, very strong releases of tears, and no conscious thought connected to them. I think it was just part of that. If I could say, well, prayer would be a word some people would use. I prefer to use the word intention at this point. My intention to be free of that way of thinking.
Yeah.
And I do think the emotional release was attached to all that. So here I am at the end of the road. If you were to look closer at this marker, it says 0 kilometers. So here I am at Finisterre, which is the end of the world. So
and 0, a comma, I guess they can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
0,00 kilometers. Yeah. So there's a lighthouse behind there that you can see, and the next few pictures are behind that lighthouse.
Wow, that's a different lighthouse than what you're used to, but I guess based on the topography, that makes sense. Yeah, very nice.
So the significance of this picture, this is, as I said, it's just behind that lighthouse, and you can see the little cross a little bit in the distance there. Something that people used to do and are not doing very much anymore, but there's a little fire pit where that cross is, and people would burn some of their clothing as a symbol of leaving the old self behind. And I didn't do that. I ended up doing something else in this spot. I ended up walking over to where that tower is, and amazingly, from where I took this picture to where that tower was, the wind was so strong, I literally felt I was going to be blown right off the side of that little mountain there. But I remember standing there with my arms out, wearing a poncho, so I'm like a kite. And I was just saying over and over again, winds of Finisterre, wash me clean and make me whole. And I really do feel like that prayer was answered.
Yeah, I just put the words up there. Did I get it spelled correctly
Camino,
there?
yeah, Camino de Santiago, yeah.
Yeah, so wow. Thank you for sharing that. This again, it's a once in a lifetime journey, but it sounds like you're gonna repeat it again soon here.
Absolutely, I am. So that's just a closer view of the fire pit. The next one is of the other location that I went to the next day, which is a beach where I collected some scallop shells to bring home. And the last pictures of those scallop shells. And again, it was very windy, and I did the same thing. As I walked along that beach, I had my arms out, and I said, it was incredibly windy.
Hmm.
And I thought, yeah, Winds of Finisterre, wash me clean and make me whole. And by the time I got back from that, I felt like I'd been pummeled
Hmm.
by the wind and the rain, but it did feel like a kind of a cleansing to me.
Yeah, I remember those winds being out by the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
My journey to Canada involved all of that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, this is some memento.
Those are the shells I brought home.
Yeah, yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing all these, not only the photos, but the stories behind them and the emotions behind them,
Mm-hmm.
and the insights behind them as well. So tell us about this lovely lady.
I will indeed. So the reason why she's there, this is my sweetheart. Her name is Kim. And I included this picture
Name
because
here. So say her name again for us.
Kim.
Okay, there we go.
And wonderful. And the reason why her picture is here is um, before I went on the Camino, my thought was, okay, am I expecting to have some sort of major revelation, or will this be a deepening of thoughts and feelings that I've already had? And it turned out to be the second.
Mm.
For me, it was a real invitation to move into deeper silence. And probably like most of us, I have defined myself most of my life by my relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last couple of years, I finally got to a point of realizing that I felt complete in and of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came home from the Camino, my desire was for my life to be more simple, more free, to have my life back in Vancouver look as much as possible like my life on the Camino.
Mm.
And so when I got home, I did a massive purge. I went through my house and got rid of a whole bunch of things. I've done that before. I'm sure you've done that. Anytime we do that, anytime we create space in our physical environment, it ends up having an impact on us, of course, on other levels as well, emotional, spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that purge in January. I had been living with a roommate for a couple of years. I decided it was time for me, in keeping with this desire for simplicity and freedom and space, I needed to get back to living on my own.
Mm-hmm.
So my Valentine's Day gift to myself was I moved into my own place, about a very short distance away from where I had been for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And 8 days after I moved into my place, I met this incredible woman.
Mm.
And I included her picture because the certainty that I had, the certainty and, all the time we have is, I'll get to that in a minute. There was a certainty in me when I saw Kim.
Mm-hmm.
I was performing somewhere and she just walked past the bandstand, and I just had this knowing that I had to meet her. I had to get to know who she was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did go over and introduce myself. And long story short, I feel like I am living something that up until now I thought was just, the stuff of Hollywood movies, or,
Mm-hmm.
I knew from the moment I laid eyes on her, all those kinds of comments. That's exactly what's happened to me with Kim.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, and interestingly, she was exactly the same. She had been on her own for years and was feeling very complete in and of herself.
Mm-hmm.
And we have met, and all those phrases that you hear, soulmate, life partner. I have never felt so completely connected, so in sync with anybody in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as I said, we met it was February 22nd when we met.
Mm-hmm.
We went out for our first date on March 6th, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
I kissed her for the first time on March 15th, so just before the whole pandemic thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
And the gift of the pandemic is it's allowed us an incredible amount of time and space to really get to know each other deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And so the second thing I wanted to say is, just like with the Camino, that sense of the only time I have is now.
Mm-hmm.
So, what am I waiting for? I knew within a very short time of being with Kim that this was the girl of my dreams. So I proposed to her 6 weeks after I met her, and now we're living together. So we just laughed because a few days ago was the 4-month period of us having met, and so much has already happened. And so we tell people this, everything that's happened now, and they're like, "What?" They just can't believe that so much has happened in such a short time. But as I said, when you know, you know. And the only time is now.
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
Can I say this, in print right here then, Nathan?
Yes.
Like, can you?
Absolutely. Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you.
to both of you. And it sounds like, again, when you when you get clearer about yourself,
Absolutely,
and you attract the appropriate one that truly is right for you, rather than
yep,
you thought might be right for you based on some preconceived notion that may be faulty.
yep,
And so when we each work on ourselves and become more clear,
yep.
we're able to have more of an opportunity to recognize those right opportunities.
And here's a fun little final note to share with you, Dune. There was a list I made of, the ideal mate characteristics I was looking for in someone. And when I made that list, I thought, my job is to embody these qualities myself. I need to cultivate this in myself. It's not about finding it in someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was a very important thing to do. But here's the kicker. I shared that list with Kim. I found it again after some period after I met her. And I laughed because she's absolutely everything on that list that I made. And then about a month ago, she found a list that she had made that's about 4 years old, and it's me to a T. So we definitely called each other in to our lives.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Congratulations to both of you. And
Thank you, sir.
Enjoy the next segment of your journey together. And let's share some more music with our viewers.
Sure.
I know, we're running a little bit longer than typical,
Yes.
but we have time. You don't have a meeting. I don't have a meeting.
Okay.
I look for it, my business email here. There's no urgent email that came in yet. So we're good. All right. So let's continue. Tell us about the next video that we're going to show, which is that yes video, the first one.
Right.
So while you introduce it, I will cue it up.
Sure. So this is taken from the Positive Music Awards, which happen every year, as I said, in Florida. And that's actually my link to the speaking world. Janice Stanfield is a very gifted singer-songwriter, is one of the people that I met in that community. So there's a couple dozen of us, and we all write music that's, it's I Say Yes, Dune. It's okay. We're all interested in writing music that's inspiring and uplifting. And Jana is a fantastic speaker. So it's because of Jana that I became aware of the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers, and in her case, the NSA, because she's American. So anyway, that's my link into the speaking world, was joining the Positive Music Association, and Empower Music is another organization. So this is, as I said, this is I call it the Positive Music Love Fest. It goes on every year. It's about 4 days long. Lots of opportunities to connect and make music. And this is me performing my song, I Say Yes, with my good friends Glenn Rathel on guitar, and Ralph Cromwell, I think his last name is, on drums. And between Glenn and I, we know every song ever written. So we lead the jam sessions that go late into the night. And anyway, lovely, lovely experiences. Many, many years of wonderful experiences there. So this is me doing my song, I Say Yes, which is very audience participatory. So take it away, Dune.
Okay, everybody ready? 1, 2, 3. And I say yes, yes to the thing itself, yes, yes to the way it works, yes, yes to what it does, yes, 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 yes to how to use it, God, the spirit, that's the thing itself, cause of all creation, origin of everything, it's what makes me sing, powerful foundation, whatever I'm doing, wherever I'm going, it's the voice that whispers in my ear. I say yes, yes to the thing itself, yes, yes to the way it works, yes, yes for what it does, yes, 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 yes to how to use it through me. That's the way it works, a principle in action. Limitless is what I am, yes I know I can. Live in satisfaction, heating the car, having it all. Peace of mind is mine. I say yes, yes to the thing itself, yes, yes to the way it works, yes, to what it does, yes, 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 to how to use it. The channel is wide open, the circuitry divine. I'm focused on the positive, and that's fine. I demonstrate abundance works and manifest the proof. Immersed in love and wisdom, surrounded by the truth. You're too kind. Wait till the next one. And I say yes to the thing itself. Yes to the way it works. Yes to what it does. Yes, 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 yes. To how to use it. Glenn. I'm focused on the positive and whoo, that's fine. Demonstrate abundance, manifest the proof. Immersed in love and wisdom, surrounded by the truth. What can I say? Embrace your inner feminine. And I say yes to the thing itself, yes to the way it works, yes to what it does, yes, 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 to how to use it. I say yes to the thing itself, yes to the way it works, yes to what it does, yes, 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 yes. How to use it, I say yes to the thing itself, yes the way it works, and yes to what it does, yes, 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 to how to use it.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you for
So
sharing.
you didn't. Thank you to the. I didn't get a chance to tell you what I got people to do is I said for extra brownie points if they want to say yes, what at the points, but also if they make the letter Y, but just putting their arms out. So you could see that in the first row there. Every time people were singing yes, they were doing this at the same time.
I see.
So,
I see.
yeah.
Wonderful. Now, why don't we maybe get into the alternate version here where you modify the words and all that for our CAPS association that you and I both belong to. Yeah, I've been a member of CAPS for, this will be my 11th year, so it's been a while. And I see you at most of these conventions here, and sometimes we get to play music for various things. And so tell us about this particular performance.
Well, I was asked, how did that happen? There was a message that went out for people because it was happening in Vancouver, wondering if anybody from the Vancouver chapter would like to contribute musically. So Lowry Olafson, who was another singer-songwriter who was a CAPS member and someone who I knew way before CAPS actually, we were both asked to, if we want to be a part of, contribute something musically. So I said, yeah. And I said, well, what I'll do is I'll take one of my songs and I'll change the words for it. And the big CAPS phrase is learn, share, grow, and belong. So I took the song we just heard and I changed the lyrics for it and made it all applicable to speakers. And so I like this video for two reasons. One, it's a different version of the song. Second, you get a chance to see me playing my other stick, the one that I am now currently playing. And I was nervous, so it's way too fast. But I managed to, people said, man, you look so great, so relaxed. I was really nervous as I was doing this. I was terrified I was going to forget the words, but it all turned out just fine. So
because it was a slightly new experience.
Slightly new, indeed.
You're a completely different set of community and tribe that you don't perform on a regular basis too.
Well said, Dune. Well said.
There we go.
So to kick off our evening, please help me welcome to the stage from the CAPS Vancouver chapter, Nathen Aswell. Oh, we're going this way.
I decided that what we need for this conference is a theme song, so I wrote it. It's called Learn, Share, Grow, and... Okay, and there's one word that I need you to sing. The chorus goes like this. I say yes, you sing the word yes back to me. I say yes, yes, in testifying song. Yes, yes, that which keeps us strong. Yes, yes, the heart of our throng. Learn, share, grow, and belong. Shall we do the whole song? All right. I say yes, yes, testifying song. Yes, to that which keeps us strong. Yes, the heart of our song. Learn, share, grow, and belong. First, learn skills and strategies that differentiate you. Then, those in the marketplace will best appreciate you. Second, affair, network and share with pro speakers beyond compare. I say yes, yes, and testifying song. Yes, yes, that which keeps us strong. Yes, yes, the heart of our throng. Learn, share, grow, and belong. Third, grow, grab the assets in our global network. You draw more clients when you eliminate the guesswork. Last but not least, be part of the feast. Are you community of really fine peeps? I say yes, yes, and testifying song. Yes, yes, and that which keeps us strong. Yes, yes, the heart of our throng. Learn, share, grow, and belong. That's the CAPS advantage, the four cornerstones. Put them into practice and make them your own. Easier and faster than going it alone. They'll raise your game up into the and I say yes, yes, and testifying song. Yes, yes, and that which keeps us strong. Yes, yes, the heart of our throng. Learn, share, grow, and belong. That's the CAPS advantage, the four cornerstones. Put them into practice and make them your own. Easier and faster than going it alone. They'll raise your game up into the Told you. And I said yes, yes, and testifying song. Yes, yes, and that which keeps us strong. Yes, yes, the heart of our throng. Learn, share, grow, and belong. I say yes, yes, and testifying song. Yes, yes, and that which keeps us strong. Yes, yes, the heart of our throng. Learn, share, grow, and belong. I say yes, yes, and testifying song. Yes, yes, and that which keeps us strong. Yes, yes, the heart of our throng. Learn, share, grow, and belong. Thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Thanks, too. Phew, that was a mouthful. There was a lot to remember there, but I got through it.
I hear all the words, and it all fits with CAPS, my friend. And for those who are not in CAPS, the four pillars or four quadrants that we have, you weave that through the theme very well, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah. So as we round the corner on the time that we sort of allocated for this, tell us, are there things that you want to share with our viewers now or later who are watching the replay that we haven't gotten to yet, Nathen? We're happy to kind of have you talk about anything else that you wanted to share.
Well, I really do feel like the Camino, people talk about defining moments in their lives. I really do feel like before the Camino, after the Camino,
Mm-hmm.
as well as, before Kim, after Kim. I've had two incredibly life-changing experiences in the last year of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And the book that I am writing about the Camino will have, what I find interesting about people who've written about the Camino is none of them talk about what happened once they got home.
Mm.
Which really surprises me, because one of the things I've read is, the Camino only really begins when you get home, meaning, of course it's going to have a profound influence on you. So why wouldn't you want to talk about how that played into your life? So I'm very interested in writing a book about the Camino and the epilogue, what happened to me since. And Kim is certainly a huge part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So so I look forward to sharing that at some point, perhaps with your audience.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's my next goal. And I'm also I haven't written new music in a while, and the reason for that was I wanted to feel more comfortable on this the stick that you just that was just shown in that last video. I've been wanting to feel more comfortable getting around on it, and performing all this music for all those weekly concerts has really upped my confidence and made me think, yep, I'm good enough to get back to writing some music. Let's get doing that. So I'm getting all these little nudges about things that I'd like to write about. So I'm excited about that too. So new music and a book are what's coming on the horizon.
Fantastic. And a wonderful new life that has been in the works for a long, long time. I, again, congratulate you and Kim on your newfound future together.
Thank you.
Best wishes with that, my friends.
Thank you. And thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation. I appreciate you listening. And yeah, I'm hoping that whomever is watching this now or will watch in the future, that this will be helpful. And if I can help anybody in any way with some listening or some attention, I would be happy to do that. And, as you pointed out, my phone number and my email address are on my website. So let's connect.
Now, you also do a lot of retreats. So, folks, do look him up for that as well. So Nathen organizes and host and facilitate retreats as well, not just the kind of presentation at various events, but also organizing his own retreats that are focused in a very different way. Yeah. So again, thank you so much, Nathen, for spending the hour and a bit here with us, and much appreciated, my friend. And I'm going to ask one more thing of you. If there were 3 words that you want viewers to kind of, hear from you to summarize or sort of captures what we've been talking about, what might those 3 words be? I know it's tough to kind of just boil it down to 3, and it's not going to be a perfect 3, but what are the 3 that are top of mind as you think about, 3 words that you want to share with our viewers?
Easy gig, Dune. Love is everything.
You see, you've thought of this before.
No. Well, I mean, I do believe that, but if I had to put it in 3 words, love is everything. Live with love, and all. Yeah, I firmly believe that there is nothing but love. That if we choose to live in love, here, let me say it another way. Years ago, I heard the phrase that it really comes down to one of 2 things: love or fear. So I am consciously choosing to live in love every day. And the more I do that, the more fully I commit to that, the better my life gets. So love is everything.
Thank you so much. Well, there you go, folks. Something that we all know, but it's a good reminder from our friend Nathen today. Love is everything. And so on that note, I wish all of you wonderful love and with yourself and with one another, and take good care of yourself, take good care of one another. Until we meet again, have a wonderful rest of your day, folks, and we'll talk to you later. Bye, Nathen.